Yeah, so to me, it's really interesting that she said that they will be the most affected. That they'll be firstly affected by climate change, but they're not being heard by the decision makers. And I think we need to promote this integration between the scientists, the decision makers, and the local communities. And of course, I think the Sami people, the indigenous people, they have a lot of knowledge that they acquired through tradition and experience because they live in these environments for a long time, and they are like experiencing climate change. So I think we need to hear them, and we need to think of ways in which we can actually work together.
It was really, really nice that you talked about the knowledge, the traditional knowledge that we, the indigenous peoples, hold. As you said, that we have lived here and we have the will to hold the space of the land for use, so that it can be used.
So it's not like when we talk about green energies or climate change scientists, it's not always something positive for you as a representative of Sami people.
When we talk widely about green energy and science, it's positive, and we as Sami people, we have a lot of faith in it, but usually we don't find solutions together, but we are informed that this is coming. So there isn't this equal conversation, but the decisions are made for us, and then there is this discussion with us only, that they can write to the papers that we talk with the indigenous peoples.
I was going to say that the importance of working together, I think the communities and the scientists, is also because sometimes we can be perceived as like an invader, like we're invading this place and we're leaving our devices and our equipment there to work with climate change, but we're not informing people about what we're doing. So I think there needs to be communication. So we need to be talking to the Sami people, for instance, and tell them. I think these studies, they need to be designed together. So before we start doing like any kind of research, maybe we should get together and talk about these.
This is really good point, because we need to have the conversation, and usually or the conversation should go as, if you want to do a study in the home area or in indigenous land, you need to understand that that the research might not fit the area. If we talk about putting some building up, it might not fit there. It doesn't go along with the livelihoods, and there is usually where the problem comes. The intention is good, but the like producing it would impact negatively to the community.
You, the indigenous, you have the solution, but the states, they don't want to follow or to use that. Can you explain a little bit more about these solutions from your people? What you mean with that, if you remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, the main solution for climate change is understanding the nature of nature, that the nature is vulnerable, that the nature can't handle the usage of people as much as we thought it would.
I see a lot of like similarities between what she said and what we do in science, really, because she said many interesting things. For instance, in the beginning, it's important to understand the nature of nature, and basically that's what we're trying to achieve in science as well. We're trying to understand the Earth, how the planet responds to changes in climate, and how people are using nature. And then this is also something very interesting, because this climate crisis is all about how we are impacting, we as humans are impacting the planet. Not using the scientific terms, she basically said the same thing. And when you see all these parallels between like in science and like people who are not doing science, like how is what I'm trying to say is that we're trying to achieve the same thing. We may use different words, but so that's why there needs to be cooperation, because the speech is very similar. Using different words, we're talking about how the planet is responding to climate change and how we're impacting the planet. Yeah, that's just what I wanted to say. But also, like, so it's just about like the way research is done, because we're talking before about very often to have access to these very isolated locations. The scientists, the researchers, they need the help of the local communities to have access to these places, and then very often they just leave behind a disturbed environment and very little information. They don't give back this information to the people. That's why I said the studies, they need to be designed together, so we can formulate the questions and the hypotheses together with the local communities in a way that makes the study relevant for them.
Yeah, I'm just going to quickly continue. I had this one thought. Yeah, I'm exactly in the same page as you, and I think the same. But one thing that came to my mind that we need to solve before we can have this, before we can start working together, is that when we talk about indigenous peoples, we have the trauma of being studied, which is still impacting our how we participate in the studies, how we are taking the people towards, and this is one thing that really needs to be talked in the two communities, in the indigenous but also in the scientist community, and how we can fix this, that we don't always feel like that we are studied and examined, you know.
Yeah, I was going to say that sometimes you can see how this intervention of the scientists in the local communities can be traumatic, as you said, and that's why I think that instead of you being the object of study, you should be like with us, like participants in the study as well. So together we decided what we're going to do and how we're going to do that. So instead of like researchers kind of like imposing their methodology in the local communities and saying that's what we're going to do, and studying the local communities, we together will perform the study. So both of us would be like active participants in the study, not like the scientists here being active, observing the communities being like kind of passive agents in the study.